Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The defending national champs, the Michigan Wolverines, kicking off spring practice today. And I want to go over a few storylines and position battles that I'm going to be keeping an eye on over the next couple of weeks. And for us Michigan fans, this has been by far the most exciting offseason we've had in a very long time. And it's going to be an exciting spring practice session. You take a look at 12 months ago, we could have sat up here and said, yeah, this is probably going to be the starting lineup for this Michigan program heading into 2023. You got a new head coach this year, a new coaching staff, and a ton of new faces that are going to be injected into this Michigan starting lineup. Going to be really fun to talk about and track over the next couple of weeks. Really excited to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Michigan fans. Many of you guys know there is not a program across the country I love talking about more than the Michigan Wolverines, and cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And much more importantly, would love to hear some of your spring practice questions, position battles that you guys are keeping an eye on in the comment section. We'll chop it up there. And without further ado, let's get into this one. Now, going into spring practice, I think we have to start with this quarterback battle. We've taken a look at the quarterback room and the quarterback battle from a ton of different angles over the last couple of weeks. Many of you guys know I'm probably on the Alex Orji train as of right now, but I think Kirk Campbell offered two really good points in his press conference the other day, one of which is that it's a numbers game. And Michigan's got 5 quarterbacks that they feel confident in heading into spring practice, and at the end of the day, you kind of trust that one or a few are going to emerge as quarterbacks that Michigan can win a lot of football games with in 2024. Now, the next conversation that we've been having is, what is Michigan looking for in their starting quarterback? Because this quarterback room is filled with a lot of diverse quarterbacks, right? You have a guy like Alex Orji that probably offers the highest upside of any quarterback in the quarterback room. You have a guy like Jack Tuttle that just has been around the college landscape for a very long time, probably gives you the highest floor in that quarterback room. And I think what Kirk Campbell said was, we're going to go with the quarterback that shows the highest command of the offense and shows the leadership of the offense. And so I think you got your answer that, hey, Michigan knows how good of a team they have around the quarterback. Make no mistake, this offensive line is still going to be very good. It has a loaded running back room. You have Colston Loveland at that tight end position. This is an offense that just needs a quarterback to come in and just play solid and be kind of the point guard of the offense. And I think Kirk Campbell kind of echoed that in his press conference. Now, the question is, over the next couple of weeks, what quarterback comes in and emerges as the guy that can run this Michigan offense the smoothest? And I think, again, if we want to run the football, a guy like Alex Orji certainly gives you another kind of dynamic playmaker that can tote the rocket and be productive in the rushing attack. Going to be a really fun position battle to monitor, and we'll be talking about it a lot over the next couple of weeks. Now, I think another position battle that I think is really sneaking, again, kind of going off what Kirk Campbell said, is, all right, what is the starting running back? What's the running back room going to look like? And I'm less concerned with the starting running back and more of how are these running backs going to be used in this Michigan offense. Now, many of you guys know I am a massive fan of Kalel Mullings for a couple of different reasons. One, this is a running back that averaged over 6 yards per carry last year, over 4 yards per carry after contact. You look at how Michigan wants to run the football, downhill and physical. I think Kalel Mullings, being the former linebacker that he is, the biggest body that we have in this running back room, certainly offers a very interesting dynamic in that rushing attack. And I think there's a very good shot that Kalel Mullings is that true running back one in this Michigan offense. But I want to circle back to a guy like Donovan Edwards, where Kirk Campbell came out and said Donovan Edwards is one of the more dynamic playmakers that is on Michigan's roster heading into 2024. And Kirk Campbell emphasized, we are going to make sure we're getting him the ball in ways that really fit his skill set. So I'm thinking you're going to see some 2 running back sets. I think you're going to see Donovan Edwards be utilized in this passing attack. I even think you're going to see Donovan Edwards split out wide as a slot receiver at times. You go back to when Kirk Campbell was calling that Michigan offense against East Carolina. Donovan Edwards had, 4 or 5 catches in that game, had a couple end arounds, a couple ways where you're putting Donovan Edwards in the best spot for him to be successful. Is Kalel Mullings potentially the best fit in this Michigan running back room? I personally think so, but Donovan Edwards is way too talented to just be at that running back 2 spot. I think you're going to see Donovan Edwards used in a lot of different ways, and I think that's something that I'm keeping an eye on. Obviously, you have guys like Benjamin Hall, who I know is a fan favorite. We saw in the spring game last year. He's going to be special. I think he could be a guy that emerges. You have a true freshman coming in Jordan Marshall as well. How does this running back room shake out? And again, less emphasis on who is the quote-unquote running back 1 and more emphasis on how are we using these running backs within that offense. Now, the next position group I want to talk about, you got a lot of talent, young talent in the wide receiver room, no doubt about it, the best tight end in the country in Colston Loveland. Not many question marks there. Well, my biggest question mark on the offense outside of probably that quarterback battle is, what is this offensive line going to shake out as? And I think the biggest nugget that we got was Kirk Campbell, one, giving a ton of praise to Myles Hinton as being a potential first-round NFL draft pick, but more importantly, making the move to left tackle. Now, I went back and watched Myles Hinton against Rutgers and against some of those games early in the season where he was our starting right tackle. I'm a massive fan of Myles Hinton, and I think the reason you didn't see him play much is they have 3 tackles that are going to the NFL draft. I think Myles Hinton, especially in the run game, is an absolute horse. I mean, this is a guy that is 6'6", 340 pounds effortlessly, moving people off the line of scrimmage. And if he can take some strides as a pass protector, what a luxury it is for Michigan to have Myles Hinton slot in as kind of an all-conference left tackle, because we all know, one, he was a stud out of high school. 2, we saw him play some really good football last year. If Myles Hinton kind of reaches his potential, I think you are looking at a very, very good left tackle for Michigan. And again, moving him over to left, how is it going to look? Now, on the inside, you kind of got your answer with Greg Crippen, a guy that probably sounds like is going to be the starting center, with Josh Prebe from Northwestern potentially being the backup. They're going to teach him how to snap. I think he's certainly a guy that's going to rotate on the inside of that offensive line. At the end of the day, on the inside of that offensive line, really don't have many question marks, right? Greg Crippen, Giovanni Ohadi, Josh Prebe, you got a guy like Raheem Anderson. It's hard to see that interior offensive line not being very good. And then at the other tackle spot, I'm probably really looking forward to seeing what Andrew Gentry looks like heading into 2024. Now, something that I'm kind of emphasizing is it's easy to get wrapped up in the starters of this Michigan program, but you go back and look at what made Michigan so special in 2023. Yes, they had a ton of NFL talent that was on full display during the NFL Combine, but more importantly, this team was incredibly deep, right? When they had injuries, you take a look at, I think, the interior defensive line last year, right? You had Mason Graham, Chris Jenkins. When those guys were coming off to get a blow, you had Kenny Grant and Rayshon Benny coming in. You take a look at the edge rushers, right? McGregor, Harrell. And then when those guys were off the field, it was Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart coming in. You take a look at the offensive line. Our all-conference guard goes down, Zach Zinner. You just kick Carson Barnhart in the guard, bring in Trente Jones. Partially why Michigan, in my opinion, was able to make such a deep run in 2023 was you got to have the depth to rotate guys in and out, to endure injuries, and Michigan certainly had that. So it's easy to get wrapped up in, who's going to be the quote-unquote starter, but I think a lot of our eyes need to be, okay, what does the depth look like for this Michigan team at a variety of different spots? Now, moving over, to the defensive side of the football, want to talk about a few things that I'm going to be monitoring. Now, the starting defensive line, we have no questions about that. It is going to be one of the best defensive lines that we see across the country. Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore, these are edge rushers, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant on the inside. That is, all 4 of those guys are going to be playing in the NFL in less than you got 12, 18 months. They're going to be playing in the NFL. It is truly a loaded defensive line. What does it look like behind those guys? Because you lose some of that depth with some of those guys going to the NFL. I want to shout out one guy that I'm really paying attention to on the inside of that defensive line, a guy that you don't see listed on the depth chart right now. That is second year. He's going to be a redshirt freshman, Eno Etta, who was the number 1 recruit in Michigan's 2023 class, came in as an edge rusher who was 6'4", 265 pounds. You check the updated depth chart for the Michigan Wolverines of that roster, he's up to 6'5", 295 pounds. We are saying, all right, who is going to step up behind Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. We know we have a dog in Rayshon Benny. I think Eno Etta could be the guy on the inside that really steps up. Now, on the outside, I think there's some questions too. My personal favorite, TJ Guy. I thought you saw some really good football from TJ Guy kind of in reserve duty. Again, we had 4 NFL edge rushers last year. It was hard for some of those edge rushers to get on the field. Who emerges as kind of some of those depth pieces in that edge rusher room? Going to be an interesting conversation. Linebacker room, not many question marks for me there. We already went into a deep dive on Jayshawn Barham. I think truly a special linebacker. Going to be playing next to Ernest Hausman with guys like Jaden Hood and Jimmy Rolder. Jimmy Rolder is another interesting one to keep an eye on. You got a lot of good linebackers that can do a lot of different things. That linebacker room going to be just fine. I guess the last position battle that we're really digging into, and it's a position battle, but also I'm kind of interested to see how the puzzle piece gets put together. I think you got 3 bona fide starters in this Michigan secondary coming back, right? Will Johnson, cornerback 1, the best cornerback in the country. No question marks on that side of the field. I think you got 2 of the best safeties in the country in Makari Page and Rod Moore. I think the question is, all right, we lose Josh Wallace to the NFL draft. We'll lose Mikey Sandstrill to the NFL draft. Who plays the nickel in that cornerback 2 spot? And there are a lot of different guys that I'm keeping an eye on, right? Zeke Berry, my personal favorite. I think he could be a very good nickel for Michigan. And in that case, you could see Zeke Berry slot in at the nickel, and then Jaden McBurrows just kicking outside to play that boundary cornerback too. There's also a possibility where Zeke Berry just backs up Makari Page and Rod Moore, and you see Jaden McBurrows play that nickel, and then you got a position battle between Jair Hill and DJ Waller. I think Brandon Hillman is another guy to probably monitor. Yes, we're looking at who is going to be the starting cornerback, the starting nickel for this Michigan program. I think we're also really interested to see where are these guys slotting in the secondary, because it's a loaded secondary room. I don't think we have any question marks about the talent that's in this position. I think the more the question is, all right, 1, who wins these jobs? And more importantly, where are they playing and what responsibilities do they have in this Michigan defense? As we get more information, we'll continue to kind of break it down, update this depth chart. And more importantly, when that spring game comes around, we'll be watching it, recapping it, giving you guys a little bit more of an updated depth chart on what this group looks like heading into 2024. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. It is about to be a very fun next couple of weeks for this Michigan program. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.